Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Yashodanandana Brajadana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajadana Ranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Jaya Krishna Rukmini, Jaya Satyabhama, Krishna Rukmini, Jaya Satyabhama. Jaya Krishna Balaram, Jaya Krishna Balaram, Jaya Krishna Balaram, Jaya Krishna Balaram. Jaya Gauranitai, Jaya Gauranitai, Gauranitai, Jaya Gauranitai. Jaya Prahlad Narsimha, Jaya Prahlad Narsimha, Jaya Prahlad Narsimha, Jaya Prahlad Narsimha. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivedikacharya Ashtotra Shatashi Srimad Divine Grace A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON Samstapakacharya Vishwaguru Savior the whole world Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 4, text number 2. Atmajaya Sutagara Atmajaya Sutagara Pashu Dravina Bandhushu Pashu Dravina Bandhushu Rajye Chavikale Nityam Rajye Chavikale Nityam Virudham Mamatam Jaho Virudham Mamatam Jaho Atmajaya Sutagara Pashudravina Bandhushu Rajye Chavikale Nityam Virudham Mamatam Jaho
Virudham Mamatam Jaho Atmajaya Sutagara Pashudravina Bandhushu Rajye Chavikale Nityam Virudham Mamatam Jaho
Atmajaya Sutagara Pasudra Vinabandhusu Rajye Chavikale Nityam Virudham Mamatam Jaho
Atma, body. Jaya, wife. Suta, son. Agara, palace. Pashu, horses and elephants. Dravina, treasury house. Bandhushu, unto friends and relatives. Rajye, in the kingdom. Cha, avikale, without being disturbed. Nityam, constant. Virudham, deep-rooted. Mamatam, affinity. Jahao, gave up. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Maharaj Parikshit, as a result of his wholehearted attraction for Lord Krishna, was able to give up all deep-rooted affection for his personal body, wife, children, palace, animals like horses and elephants, his treasury house, his friends and relatives, and his undisputed kingdom. Please repeat the translation. Maharaj Parikshit, as a result of his wholehearted attraction for Lord Krishna, was able to give up all deep-rooted affection for his personal body, his wife, his children, his palace, his animals like horses and elephants, his treasury house, his friends and relatives, and his undisputed kingdom. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. To become liberated means to become free from the Atma Buddhi, the illusory attachment for personally bodily coverings and everything connected with the body, namely wife, children, and all other entanglements. One selects a wife for bodily comforts and the result is children. For wife and children, one requires a dwelling place, and as such, a residential house is also necessary. Animals like horses and elephants, cows and dogs are all household animals, and a householder has to keep them as household paraphernalia. In modern civilization, the horses and elephants have been replaced by cars and conveyances with considerable horsepower. To maintain all the household affairs, one has to increase the bank balance and be careful about the treasury house. And in order to display the opulence of material assets, one has to keep good relations with friends and relatives, as well as become very careful about maintaining the status quo. This is called material civilization of material attachment. Devotion for Lord Krishna means negation of all material attachments as detailed above. By the grace of Lord Krishna, Maharaj Parikshit was awarded all material amenities and an undisputed kingdom in which to enjoy the undisturbed position of a king. But by the grace of the Lord, he was able to give up all connections with material attachment. That is a position of a pure devotee. Maharaj Parikshit, due to his natural affection for Lord Krishna as a devotee of the Lord, was always executing his royal duties on behalf of the Lord. And as a responsible king of the world, he was always careful to see that the influence of Kali would not enter his kingdom. A devotee of the Lord never thinks of his household paraphernalia as his own, but surrenders everything for the service of the Lord. Thereby, living entities under a devotee's care get the opportunity for God realization by the management of a devotee master. Attachment for household paraphernalia and Lord Krishna go poorly together. One attachment is the path of darkness, and the other attachment is the path of light. Where there is light, there is no darkness, and where there is darkness, there is no light. But an expert devotee can turn everything to the path of light by an attitude of service to the Lord. And the best example here is the Pandavas. Maharaj Yudhishthira and the householders like him can turn everything into light by dovetailing so-called material assets in the service of the Lord. But one who is not trained or is unable to turn everything into the service of the Lord, Nirbandha Krishna Sambandhe, must give up all material connections before he can be fit to hear and chant the glories of the Lord. Or in other words, one who has seriously heard Srimad Bhagavatam, even for one day, like Maharaj Parikshit, from a fit personality like Shukadev Goswami, may be able to lose all affinity for material things. There is no utility simply in imitating Maharaj Parikshit and hearing Bhagavatam from professional men, even for 700 years. To take Srimad Bhagavatam as a means of maintaining family expenditure is the grossest type of Nama Aparada offense at the feet of the Lord. Sarva Shubha Kriya Samyam Api Pramadaha. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namo Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarane Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare Atmajaya Sutagara Pashudravina Bandushu Rajye Chavikale Nityam Virudham Mamatam Jahau. So Srimad Bhagavatam is considered as the topmost Vedic literature because the kind of message and the path that Srimad Bhagavatam gives is not to be found even in the other Vedic literatures. Vedic literature comprises of 4 Vedas, Rig, Atharva, Sama and Yajur, and 108 Upanishads, then 18 Puranas, then 2 Itihasas, Ramayana and Mahabharata. This is in totality considered as Vedic literature, and Vyasadeva put them into writing just at the end of Dwapara Yuga, 5000 years ago. So all the Vedic literatures, they give us the path of Dharma, Artha, Kama and Moksha. This is technically called Purushartha, means 4 goals of a civilized human being. So somebody performs Dharma. Dharma refers to Varnashrama Dharma. Varnashrama Dharma means 4 Varnas and 4 Ashramas. Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, these are the 4 Varnas, and 4 Ashramas are Brahmachari, Grahastha, Vanaprastha and Sannyasi. So today, of course, in Kali Yuga, there is no Varnashrama Dharma. A very diluted form of Varnashrama Dharma exists in the society today, which is called as Hinduism. What exists today is nothing but a very watered down and diluted form of Varnashrama Dharma. But 5000 years ago, when Parikshit Maharaj was living, Varnashrama Dharma was still intact. And Varnashrama Dharma aims at this, that person should perform Dharma. As soon as he performs Dharma, then he gets Artha, wealth. And moment one has wealth, then Kama, one can fulfill his desires. Then when all the desires are fulfilled, then one can think of Moksha. This is the plan for Varnashrama Dharma. But the problem here is that although the Varnashrama Dharma recommends Dharma, Artha, Kama and Moksha, the person who follows the path of Varnashrama Dharma, it's very difficult for a person to give up that desire. Very difficult, gross and subtle enjoyment. So therefore, the path of Srimad Bhagavatam is considered the topmost and among all Vedic literatures. Because Srimad Bhagavatam is not recommending us to simply renounce things for the sake of renunciation, but Srimad Bhagavatam is recommending everybody to develop attraction for Lord Krishna. Message of Srimad Bhagavatam. This message is not found even in the other Vedic literatures. So, if somebody can develop attraction for Krishna very, very strongly, then whether somebody renounces this world and goes to the forest in his household affairs does not make any difference. And the best example given here is that of the Pandavas. Srila Prabhupada says here. The best example given here is the Pandavas. Mahan householders like him can turn everything into light by dovetailing so-called material assets in the service of the Lord. So the Pandavas were not sannyasis roaming in the forest. The Pandavas were all family men. They were having such a large kingdom. They had to manage such huge resources. They were collecting taxes. But the beauty of the consciousness of the Pandavas is that they were always attached to Krishna. And because of their strong attachment to Krishna, the Pandavas were not attached to anything. Absolutely nothing. Although they were in the midst of worldly opulence. Yudhishthira Maharaj was the king of the entire world. All the kings in the world used to come and pay respects to Yudhishthira Maharaj. He was collecting taxes from all the kings in the world. So much wealth was there with the Pandavas. And they had royal opulence. They were living in very palatable palaces. They had the best of food. Everything enjoyable was there at the disposal of the Pandavas. But the Pandavas were not attached to anything but Krishna. We find that in the Mahabharata. When Duryodhana gambled, Shakuni gambled and cheated the Pandavas of all the wealth that they had very painstakingly acquired, the Pandavas had to go to the forest. But they were not bothered. They took it as the will of the Lord. First of all, rightfully they were supposed to get something. Pandu and Dhritarashtra were brothers. Pandu became the king. Dhritarashtra could not become the king because he was blind. So he was not fit to be the king. So Pandu became the king. Unfortunately, Pandu passed away at a very early age. An untimely death happened. And at that time, the Pandavas were very young. Yudhishthira, Nakula, Sahadeva, Arjuna, Bhima, all of them were very young. So they could not become king. So therefore, Dhritarashtra was asked to become the caretaker king. Till these Pandavas grow up and their education is finished, you can become the caretaker king. And as soon as the Pandavas grow up, naturally, Pandu's children should become the king. But Dhritarashtra had this grudge in his mind that somehow I could not become king because of my lack of eyesight. At least my son Duryodhana should become the king. So that was always there in his desire. So because of that, Dhritarashtra never gave the kingdom back to Yudhishthira. Kingdom belonged to Yudhishthira. Rightfully it was his. He never gave. And Duryodhana, anyway, we all know, was an evil-minded person. He was always plotting to finish off the Pandavas. At least Dhritarashtra only did not give the kingdom to the Pandavas. Duryodhana could not tolerate the very existence of the Pandavas, somehow finish them off. So that was his only plan. And Dhritarashtra, being very weak-hearted, he knew what is dharma, because Vidura was there to advise him continuously. But he could never take any strong decision. He became a slave of Duryodhana, practically. Duryodhana would emotionally blackmail Dhritarashtra, and Dhritarashtra would not be able to say anything. And as a king, he could not take a strong decision, putting his foot down and saying, Duryodhana, what you are doing is wrong. Because of that, silently he allowed whatever nefarious activities Duryodhana was doing. So anyway, Pandavas did not get the kingdom. So what Dhritarashtra did, he gave one useless piece of land called Khandava Prastha, where nothing grows. He gave that to Yudhishthira. So that itself was injustice. But Yudhishthira did not complain. He took it as the will of Krishna. Krishna has given this useless piece of land, no problem. So the Pandavas went there, and by the blessings of Krishna, they turned that Khandava Prastha into Indraprastha, as good as Indra's capital. So opulent Indraprastha became, so rich, so much of wealth. And to celebrate that success of having successfully created Indraprastha by the blessings of Krishna, Yudhishthira Maharaj wanted to hold a Rajasuya Yajna. And the purpose of that Rajasuya Yajna was to elect Krishna as the president of that assembly and glorify in front of the best persons of who would be coming to the Rajasuya Yajna that here is the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna. With that motive in mind, Yudhishthira Maharaj organized this Rajasuya Yajna. So kings from all over the world came. Arjuna went far and wide and collected wealth, huge amount of wealth for Rajasuya Yajna. He got the name Dhananjaya because of that. Bhima also went, Nakula also went, Sahadeva also went, everybody went. And everybody accepted Yudhishthira Maharaj's invitation. And not only kings of this world, even the Devatas came to attend the Rajasuya Yajna, Mahabharata mentioned. Even Brahma came, Vyasa came, all great rishis came. And so opulent it was. 88,000 sages came to attend that Rajasuya Yajna. And for each sage, Yudhishthira Maharaj was able to give 30 personal servants. So you can imagine the opulence. 30 personal servants he gave for each sage, and 88,000 sages came to attend. And huge amount of gifts were distributed. Horses were given in charity, gold was given in charity, cows were given in charity. Everybody was well fed. And in that assembly, Krishna was declared the Supreme Lord, and he was glorified, and he was given the befitting honor which was due to the Supreme Lord. And the way Indraprastha was constructed, it was amazing. Maya, a particular demon, Danava, Maya Danava, he constructed that palace for Yudhishthira Maharaj. Because when the Pandavas were clearing the Khandava Prastha, this Maya was chased by Krishna's Sudarshana Chakra. So Maya had nowhere to go. So he came and fell at the feet of Arjuna. Please protect me. So once Arjuna said, my dear Lord, please protect him. So the Lord also excused him and told him, you must build something wonderful for the Pandavas. And Maya was an expert in architecture and construction. So he constructed a very, very beautiful palace. And Duryodhana came there, he was completely bewildered. Where there is land, it is looking like water. Where there is water, it is looking like land. Where there is fire, there is no fire. Where there is no fire, there is actually fire. So all this opulence Duryodhana saw, and he was totally bewildered. So he went and told Shakuni, today I am committing suicide. I cannot tolerate this superiority of the Pandavas. There is no use of me living. He was so much burning with envy. I am committing suicide right now. I cannot live longer. I thought I had all the kingdom, and these Pandavas got one useless piece of land called Khandava Prastha. They have become greater than me. Brahma has come, Vyasa has come, Narada has come, all the great rishis have come. So this is not tolerable to me. So Shakuni told him, no, don't worry, you don't commit suicide. I have a very novel way. I am very expert in playing the dice. Nobody can defeat me when I play dice. You simply do one thing. You go to Dhritarashtra and somehow convince him that he has to call Yudhishthira for a gambling match. This much you do. Everything else I will take care. Within minutes I will give you the entire kingdom. So Duryodhana was very, very excited by this proposal. He went and blackmailed Dhritarashtra. Shri Krishna Rukmani Satyabhama ki jai. He went and blackmailed Dhritarashtra and somehow got Dhritarashtra to get Yudhishthira for a gambling match. And as is the norm, Kshatriyas don't refuse war and gambling match. That is the Vedic system. Yudhishthira also agreed. And by Shakuni's cheating and whatever his expertise, the Pandavas were unfairly taken away of all that they had earned and worked hard and built very painstakingly. Everything was taken away. And they had to go to the forest for 12 years with the condition that the 13th year, if they are found out, if their disguise is found out, they have to be incognito for 1 year. Then they will have to go once again for 12 years. This way Shakuni planned to keep them 12 years forever in the Pandavas, in the forest. That was Shakuni's plan. Anyway, when all this happened, the Pandavas were not at all attached to their wealth and everything was lost. They simply took it as the blessing of Krishna. They got Khandava Prastha, which is itself was injustice. The Pandavas took it as a blessing of Krishna. They were able to build Indraprastha out of Khandava Prastha. The Pandavas knew it is by Krishna's blessing. Indraprastha is built, now it is all taken away. Again the Pandavas took it as the blessing of the Supreme Lord. So because of the very strong attachment that the Pandavas had for Krishna, although they were living in the midst of all worldly opulence, so much of wealth, huge palaces, servants, power, honor, respect, everything, the Pandavas were not at all attached within the core of their heart to any of these things. And once the war was won, the Kurukshetra war was over, the Pandavas ruled for 36 years. Yudhishthira Maharaj ruled for 36 years after the war. Very nicely they were ruling. So one day Yudhishthira instructed Arjuna, please go to Dwaraka and find out how is our dearmost Krishna. Is everything fine? Please go and find out. So Arjuna went to Dwaraka and he got to know that Krishna has wound his Leela. All the Yajus have killed each other. Everything is over and Krishna is no longer there. He has left for his abode. So Arjuna came back and told this news. My dear master Yudhishthira, our dearmost friend and relative, the Supreme Lord Krishna, who was with us all along, he has wound up all his Leela. He is no longer there on this earth planet. He has gone back to his abode. As soon as the Pandavas heard this, immediately they left everything. Not a moment they were thinking about anything else. Immediately they left everything. And they simply dressed themselves in some loin cloth and tree bark and few pieces of cloth. They started walking towards the Himalayas, Mahaprasthan, simply walking. They had no interest. Our dearmost friend, the Supreme Lord Krishna, who is dear than everything else for us, he is no longer there in this world. He has left for his abode. What is our interest here? What is the use of this palace? What is the use of all this wealth? What is the use of all these servants? What is the use of all this kingly opulence? So they called Parikshit and they made him the next king, and they simply walked towards the Himalayas for salvation. So that is why Prabhupada is writing, the best example of somebody who, although remaining in the midst of all kinds of worldly opulence, but still was not attached to anything, is the Pandavas. Maharaj Yudhishthira and householders like him can turn everything into light by dovetailing so-called material assets in the service of the Lord. So this is the position of the Pandavas, and this is the message that Srimad Bhagavatam is giving. And that is why Srimad Bhagavatam is considered as the topmost Vedic literature. Nigama kalpataror galitam phalam shukamakat amrita drava sumyutam pibata bhagavatam rasamalayam muhuraho rasika bhuvi bhavuka. So Bhagavatam is inviting everyone, please give up all these useless religious systems. Dharma projita kaitava. Every other religious system is cheating religion. It is kaitava dharma. Even the path of dharma, artha, kama and moksha, which is there in the Vedic literatures, which is compiled by Vyasadeva only, that also Bhagavatam calls it as kaitava dharma, all useless path, cheating religion. Why? Because except for the path of Srimad Bhagavatam, none of the other Vedic literatures give any option or program how to increase one's attachment for Krishna. All the other Vedic literatures are simply talking of how you can fulfill your lusty desires, both gross and subtle sense gratification, in a pious way, in a religious way. That's all they are talking about. You want this, you do this, you will get that. You want that, you worship this devata, you will get that. These are the things you should do, these are the things you should avoid. If you do these things, you will get all these things for your enjoyment. And if you avoid all these things, then this is suffering you can avoid. That's all the Vedic literatures are talking about. But in trying to follow this path of the Vedic literatures, there is no plan, there is no program how the soul's attachment for lusty desires can be removed. Person remains attached to all kinds of lusty desires. And the Vedic literatures are only encouraging him to fulfill all these desires in a religious way. Do not become irreligious. Do not become immoral. Do not loot. Do not murder. Do not do all those things. But in a pious way, you can fulfill all your desires. But Srimad Bhagavatam differs in opinion from the other Vedic literatures also. Bhagavatam says the very desire to fulfill one's own lusty desires itself is sin. except for devotional service of the Supreme Lord, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, Archanam, Mandanam, Dasyam, Sakyam, Atmanivedanam. Except for pure devotional service, everything else is meaningless. This is the path given by Srimad Bhagavatam. And if somebody can cultivate attraction for Krishna by this path of devotional service, then whether somebody is within the household life, like the Pandavas, or he is living in the forest, actually does not make any difference. And if somebody is not able to cultivate attachment for Krishna, then even so-called renunciation by going to the forest is not going to help. Why? Because the soul is continuing to maintain attachment for gross and subtle sense gratification. So on the one hand, while somebody is maintaining one's attachment for gross and subtle sense gratification, merely changing one's physical position from a city to a forest is not going to be of much help. Aradito yadi hari tapasa tatah kim. Naradito yadi hari tapasa tatah kim. Prabhupada quotes this in one place. Aradito yadi hari. If one is doing aradhana of Hari, tapasa tatah kim. What is the use of all other so-called austerities? Naradito yadi Hari. If one does not worship the Supreme Lord Hari, tapasa yata kim. What is the use of performing all other austerities? So therefore, Bhagavatam is very clear in giving this most confidential message that mere external renunciation is not going to help. The soul must be freed from the desire for gross and subtle sense gratification. Unless the soul is gradually becoming free from the desire for gross and subtle sense gratification, there is no question of liberation. There is no question of moksha. Prabhupada quotes that verse. Aruhya krichirena. Even impersonalists. Impersonalists are people who do not believe in cultivating attraction for Krishna. They are people who do not believe that Krishna is the cause of all causes. They think that by tapasya, by renouncing this world, by renouncing both gross and subtle sense gratification in a mechanical way, one can achieve moksha. But Srimad Bhagavatam differs and says that unless the soul has developed, a particular living entity has developed strong attraction for Krishna, one cannot give up the desire for gross and subtle sense gratification. Krishna also mentions this in the Bhagavad Gita. Devi hesha gunamayi mama maya duratyaya. That is one verse. Another verse is Tribihir gunamair bhaver ebihi sarvamidam jagat. So Devi hesha gunamayi mama maya duratyaya, and Krishna says mamevaya prapadyante. That means only those who have completely developed attraction for Krishna, they can give up the desire for gross and subtle sense gratification. Others, other paths, other so-called religious paths, even if it appears very attractive, is not going to free the soul from the desire for gross and subtle sense gratification. So we see the example of the Pandavas. The Pandavas were completely attached to Krishna, always remembering the name of Krishna, always chanting the name of Krishna, always wanting to worship the form of the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna. Because their hearts were filled with attraction for Krishna, the Pandavas had absolutely no desire for gross and subtle sense gratification. One moment Yudhishthira is glorified as the king in the Rajasuya Yajna. All the kings in the world are placing their mukuta at his feet and glorifying him as the emperor of the whole world. Next moment he has lost everything, he has to go to the forest. But Yudhishthira Mother is not at all bothered. Because even when everybody was glorifying him as the emperor of the whole world, Yudhishthira Maharaj was simply taking pleasure in remembering Krishna. And even when Shakuni cheated them and took all the kingdom away, Yudhishthira was remembering Krishna and his name, form, qualities and activities. So in Sukha and Dukkha, success and failure, Mana and Apamana, the Pandavas were always remembering Krishna, his name, form, qualities and activities. And because of that, the Pandavas had no attachment to anything else. This actually is liberation. Jivan mukta sa uchyate, Srila Prabhupada says. One is liberated even within this material world. Even though one may be living in the midst of so many so-called worldly opulences, because by the dint of strong attraction to Krishna and his name, form, qualities and activities, these worldly opulences and the all allurements cannot affect and bewilder the consciousness of a pure devotee like Yudhishthira Maharaj, never bewildered by such opulence. On the other hand, if somebody takes to some other religious system other than this path of developing attraction for Krishna's name, form, qualities and activities, even if he were to go in the middle of the ocean or under a water body, his mind can get bewildered by worldly opulence. We find the example of Saubhari Muni, who understood, my God, Saubhari Muni was very intelligent. He understood, my God, this world is full of sensual objects and very tempting things. So Saubhari Muni thought, how can I become free from all this temptation? So Saubhari Muni decided, out of sight, out of mind. Only if I see all these things, these objects are going to disturb me. So let me go under the river, under the water body. None of these objects will be able to disturb me. Out of sight, out of mind, I will become free from all those temptations and I can peacefully meditate. This was Saubhari Muni's plan. But he went deep within the water, apparently away from all the enjoyable things of this world. But simply he saw two fish together, and then immediately Saubhari Muni's mind was agitated. So Bhagavatam gives that example also. On the other hand, you see the Pandavas. They are living in all opulence. They are living in the midst of all worldly, royal riches and everything. But Yudhishthira Maharaj's consciousness is not at all affected by all these things. Not at all affected. Why? Because Yudhishthira Maharaj's consciousness was always absorbed in thinking of the name, form, qualities and activities of Krishna. So although in the midst of everything, still the Pandavas are ever liberated. This is the path of Srimad Bhagavatam. That is why Bhagavatam glorifies all pure devotees. And the Pandavas are definitely pure devotees of the Lord, eternal associates of the Lord. And in this verse, Srila Prabhupada is mentioning that Parikshit Maharaj was also in the same category. He also, because of his wholehearted attraction for Lord Krishna, he was able to give up all deep-rooted affection for his personal body, his wife, his children, his palace, his animals like horses and elephants, treasury house, friends, relatives, and undisputed kingdom. Parikshit also, because when the war was almost over, at that time, Ashwathama, he was very upset. My father was killed by these Pandavas, Bhima and Arjuna. So Ashwathama decided, I will finish off the Pandavas. But instead of acting like a Kshatriya to go and challenge them for war, Ashwathama took the path of a coward. When the Pandavas were sleeping at night, he went and cut off their heads. But Krishna is always the master of everything. Krishna is smarter than everybody else. So Krishna ensured that the Pandavas were not there, the Upa-Pandavas were there. The Pandavas' children were there. So the Pandavas were not killed that night. But Ashwathama was not satisfied with that. He said, I will finish off Parikshit also. He is the last living heir of this entire Kuru dynasty. And he got to know Uttara is pregnant and in her womb is Parikshit Maharaj. So he directed his Brahmastra towards the womb of Uttara and he wanted to finish off Parikshit Maharaj within the womb itself. And Uttara, being a devotee of the Lord, she immediately offered prayers to Krishna. And the Lord entered the womb of Uttara. And although Parikshit Maharaj's body was completely burnt, the Lord gave him a new body. The Lord protected Parikshit Maharaj even within the womb. And at that time, Parikshit Maharaj was able to have darshan of the Lord within the womb of his mother. And the form of the Lord became completely fixed in the mind of Parikshit. So as soon as he came out, he would always examine everybody and see whether this person is the same person whom I had seen in the womb of my mother. So he got the name Parikshit. Pariksha means to examine. So he got the name Parikshit. So attached Parikshit was to Krishna even from the womb of his mother. And that attraction further developed for Krishna because over the years Parikshit Maharaj grew up as a devotee of the Lord and later on he met Shukadeva Goswami and simply by hearing Srimad Bhagavatam from Shukadeva Goswami for 7 days with rapt attention. Parikshit Maharaj also was able to fix his consciousness on the name, form, qualities and activities of the Supreme Lord. Because of that, when Parikshit Maharaj was cursed by the Brahmana boy, when he was told, next 7 days you have to live in this world, after that you are going to be killed by the snake bite, Parikshit Maharaj was not at all disturbed. He took it as a blessing of the Supreme Lord and immediately went looking for a person who can give him apt guidance. And by the arrangement of the Lord, he met Shukadeva Goswami. So this is the most wonderful and perfect path given by Srimad Bhagavatam. Bhagavatam is completely focused on this central point, that the soul's natural attraction is for the Supreme Lord, His name, form, qualities and activities. Unless and until that is revived, there is no possibility of relieving a particular person from attachment for gross and subtle sense gratification by any other means. Therefore, Srimad Bhagavatam calls every other religious path as Kaitava Dharma, useless cheating process, does not give real benefit to the soul. And Narada Muni himself, who is the spiritual master of Vyasadeva, Vyasa is incarnation of Lord Narayana. He has incarnated just to compile all the Vedic literatures to give direction for the human society. So Narada Muni himself criticized Vyasadeva. What have you done? Already the people are inclined towards gross and subtle sense gratification. Lust is already there in their heart. And you have compiled volumes and volumes and volumes of Vedic literatures to encourage them on that path. You have simply put some rules and regulations by which they will satisfy their gross and subtle sense gratification within those boundary of rules and regulations. How long will they follow these rules and regulations? Any moment they will give up all this and take up to gross and subtle sense gratification in irreligious way. So you have not done anything auspicious by compiling all these Vedic literatures. Please compile Srimad Bhagavatam. So that is how Vyasadeva was inspired. So therefore, Srimad Bhagavatam is simply focused on one single tattva, that the Supreme Lord Krishna, and attraction to Him is the natural state of existence for the soul. And Srila Prabhupada was a great communicator of this tattva in modern English language. Prabhupada's communication is so wonderful, that wonderful example of Prabhupada, that a man is walking on the street, he sees Bank of America, and he says, Bank of America is mine. So he is a crazy man. And if he says, I have renounced Bank of America, he is still a crazy man, because neither Bank of America belongs to him, and because it does not belong to him, he has no adhikara or right to renounce that. So the impersonalists actually are followers of this path. They say, this world is not mine, and then I have renounced this world, all these kind of statements. But the devotees of the Lord, pure devotees of the Lord, like the Pandavas, they are not impersonalists. They accept the creation as created by the Lord and utilize it for His service. So therefore, this path is most auspicious for everyone. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu summarized this entire Bhagavata Vidhi, this path of Srimad Bhagavatam, in that verse, Sthane Sthitam Stutigatam Shrunuvan Manobi. Wherever you are, whatever you may be doing, whichever place you may be situated, simply try to hear submissively about Krishna from a bona fide source. It's very important. Hearing about Krishna from a bona fide source. That is why Srila Prabhupada is writing here. There is no utility simply in imitating Maharaj Parikshit and hearing Srimad Bhagavatam from professional men, even for 700 years. A very strong word Srila Prabhupada is using. Therefore, if somebody is fortunate to hear Srimad Bhagavatam from a pure devotee like Srila Prabhupada, who has no ulterior motive in speaking Srimad Bhagavatam, Prabhupada's only motive of speaking Bhagavatam and writing these books is that people in this world are suffering because of their attachment to gross and subtle sense gratification. And this message of Srimad Bhagavatam must relieve them of that attachment, and they must develop attachment to Krishna, his name, form, qualities, and activities. With this objective in mind, Srila Prabhupada presented Srimad Bhagavatam. No other motive. So therefore, such a source is a pure source, is a perfect source. So if somebody is fortunate enough to hear Srimad Bhagavatam from such a source, then he will also develop the same quality as Parikshit Maharaj, as the Pandavas. He will also be able to give up attachment for everything, even if we may have to live within worldly opulence like family, relatives, bank balance, then vehicles, houses, servants, all these things. So therefore, the path of Srimad Bhagavatam is most auspicious because Srimad Bhagavatam is encouraging everyone to follow the footsteps of Parikshit Maharaj and develop wholehearted attraction for Lord Krishna. So therefore, if we are able to follow this path and develop attraction for Krishna, then we can also renounce everything, or rather renounce the desire for all kinds of sense gratification and remain happy by chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra and hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Vishwaguru Srila Prabhupada ki jai.